Incoming USC freshman Isaiah Collier was the consensus #1 player in the 2023 class, one of the most decorated in recent years, winning 3 Georgia State championships, Naismith Player of the Year, and MVP of all 3 of the Under Armour Elite 24, Curry Camp, and the McDonald's All-American game, and he'll look to continue that run of success as one of the top picks in the 2024 NBA draft. He's a big, physical 6'3", 6'4" point guard who puts constant pressure on the defense as a driver and has really shined as an overall passer and playmaker. While there are a few questions he'll need to answer to fulfill that potential as a guard picked in the highest parts of the draft, he's got some dynamic traits and has already made a pretty good first impression for USC. And getting into some of that dynamic ability, Collier has partially made a name for himself by being a near automatic paint touch and getting there from a variety of starting points, and that remained the case in USC's foreign tour earlier this month, where it was tough for guys to stay in front of him. He has a great first step and does an excellent job of accelerating from a standstill position, and when you match that with his strength and ability to take contact and remain on balance on his driving lanes, it's extremely difficult for opponents to stop. He's also got a solid handle, he keeps it pretty efficient and likes to use push crosses and in and outs among other moves, does a pretty good job of controlling pace and maximizing his burst there. And when he does get to the bucket, he finishes through contact and at different angles at a high level. And I think we see him continue to have success and draw a good number of fouls in the process for all these reasons.
It's a hugely important trip for them. They're going to be on this trip for 10 days.
6th player in the ESPN 100 and the #2 point guard in the nation. Turning to the
He might be at his best in transition as he becomes a big time threat whenever he decides to push it. Again, when he turns it on and changes pace from slow to fast, he's often leaving guys in the dust, creating a numbers advantage and forcing that back line as a defense to make a decision pretty quickly. He's excelled off of drag screens too, something I think we'll see a good amount of this year. And even on more secondary break looks or times when teams would press him for whatever reason, he routinely did a good job of maintaining that initial advantage, entering the half court using his body but still being in control. We'll likely continue to see this overall ability to put pressure on a defense as a driver and scorer early on at the college level and beyond.
could be an elite defender at UConn. Just got to be more committed. 15 points for Castle.
But what's my favorite and probably the most impactful and highest upside part of Collier's game is his ability to make plays for others, not only leveraging that downhill and driving ability to make more reactive reads, but also in some of his manipulation, his pace and feel, and overall unselfishness. Now it does start with being able to put pressure on a defense like he can. He's a threat making those basic driving kick or dump off reads, whether it's driving baseline and hitting the corner or cutters, or driving middle and making those drop offs or passes out to shooters. He's got a pretty good grasp of things there and often creates easy opportunities, and for me he's been one of the more impressive young passers in the last few classes.
Three, well off the mark. Collier in the open court. Nice pass inside the Hornery.
And Sean Stewart couldn't finish. Collier racing ahead. The drop off and the
In transition, he's done a good job of having his eyes up and finding teammates with hit aheads and delivering a long pass for easy points. And then he's of course capable of pushing pace himself and outrunning teams until he can collapse a defense and find an open teammate off of that as well. And I think with the way Andy Enfield ideally wants to play in terms of the up-tempo offense, going back to his Florida Gulf Coast and early USC days, Collier is pretty much the perfect guy to have as the catalyst for getting them back as one of the faster paced teams in the country.
that shot attempt at the other end of the glass. Inside, Collier!
Comes Collier. Off the turnover, down the lane! Up the lane for Kozisti to cut and finish with the left hand. Collier pushing now.
There we go. But
Draws another foul.
even off the make.
And in this last little section of his playmaking, I've been really impressed by his ability to make plays in the pick and roll. He has a good level of awareness of his reads to see where the help is at and to make the right play. And he's frequently made skip passes to the corner and loves throwing them off the live dribble with his right hand. And there's always a ton of velocity coming off of those. And that velocity is actually one of his biggest strengths just solely as a passer. He also has good pace. He sets up screens well and finds his roll man often for lobs, which again shows off some of his timing and touch. And he and Arrington Page, who you might have noticed finishing a lot of these plays in this video so far, will look to take some of that chemistry they've had in every other setting to the college level.
Collier 6'4", both strong and tough mind. Oh, look at that little skip bounce pass. We got 5 on the clock here. Collier's going to have to do something. No one else is touching this, are they? Hands it off to Payne. Chance to play against great competition in the NBA.
And then his manipulation has also been great to watch and is one of the more impressive aspects of his game to me. And this play right here is a great look at that. Here we've got the big hedging hard on the screen. Collier takes a couple dribbles to survey the floor, knowing the position that the low man is in as the big is recovering back to the roller. He's got eyes on the corner skip, and using that live dribble pass, you can kind of decide fairly late where you want it to go, and that's kind of what happens here. The low man guesses or shades corner given how Collier is positioned. The recovering big isn't quite back in time to effect the pass, and Collier delivers what is an absolute bullet for the easy bucket. Now, he's not perfect, and I will say that there are times where he can get caught predetermining or forcing things, and this was a little more prominent on the recent foreign tour. He missed a couple easy open guys and had some avoidable turnovers in the process, which does make me more interested in seeing just how reactive or anticipatory he will be as a passer at this next level. But based on the larger sample we've seen from him, and this being his first look in a new situation against a pretty good comp, it's hard to put too much stock into it yet.
He hasn't played yet today.
Now, the biggest long and short-term swing areas for Collier is going to be his three-point shot, both off the dribble and in catch-and-shoot situations. And while he's steadily progressed over the years and was pretty good in a limited EYBL sample last year, this is still probably the biggest question mark for him. Y'all know the importance of being able to punish an under or drop in the pick and roll. He's actually been pretty confident from deep range from what I've seen, even if the percentages haven't been there yet. But more consistency and efficiency both from 3 and in the mid-range will be important to unlocking his game. And then just being able to provide value off the ball as a catch and shoot guy, that'll be a big long-term key as well. And the good thing for him this year, playing alongside Boogie Ellis, Osiah Sellers, Kobe Johnson, and hopefully Bronny James, he'll have a ton of time in practice and in game to get used to that.
You can see that he put thought into that answer. Is something he didn't just come up with when we were in that room Saturday. He's thought about it long before.
Now, I noticed some of this in his more limited high school and AAU film that's out there, but it also stood out on USC's foreign tour, and that is a tendency to press the issue as a driver all the way to the bucket when the pull-up or floater is right there for the taking. It's led to some offensive fouls and some tougher attempts at the rim, and I just think given how well he can get to the paint, teams are obviously going to scheme and individually defend for that first, and that has opened up more pull-up and floater opportunities. So just more naturally reading and countering or decelerating to get some of those easier in-between game looks. I'll be interested to see where that goes and how often he can actually get to those shots more than just making them or percentages at this point.
Well defended there. Collier runner.
Collier from mid-range.
In the screen. Collier to the hoop.
There's nobody easier to play with than Isaiah Collier, 4 in the red with the basketball. Collier the pull-up.
We talked to him after the second win over Megam East. I asked him, is it your goal to be Pac-12 defensive?
And then finally, defensively, I'm still pretty TBD on my opinion of him, which is the case with quite a few guards going into college or higher professional settings. I think he has the tools to be a solid defender. moves well enough laterally, he's got really good size, strength, all those aspects, and he has had some really good moments. I just want to see him pay more attention to detail in a lot of ways, being better with his screen navigation and staying in plays more there, and really just bringing it a little more consistently at the point of attack, and then off the ball, just more details and principles. I think his positioning has been fine for the most part, but cleaning up the closeouts, gambling a little less, and staying engaged for longer, that's stuff I think he can and will naturally get better at given the stakes. So yeah, not too many conclusions there for me yet. I just kind of want to see it, especially at the college level, and that'll be one of the things I watch closest as the USC season progresses.
He doesn't have a game. Centennial had trailed by as much as 12, a minute to go in the first half here, and they can basically get even, although there's a steal.
Topic getting the screen.
I think the safest projection for Isaiah Collier in next year's draft would be top 7, 8ish, maybe 10. There's usually a lot less room for error or question marks at the very top of the draft for somewhat smaller guards who may need the ball or have questionable jumpers, which is most of why I'd say that. But for me personally, I'd say strong top 5 for him heading into the season, because in a class that is somewhat without many threats to be a primary of any level in the NBA, he definitely has that type of upside as a creator, and for me, I value that quite a bit, at least coming into the season, and I even think he could threaten as a top pick in the draft. Now with the amount of teams that have players they're heavily invested in running the show, the other big wings and forwards contending for the top spot, he may need to really hit or at least show enough progress in those areas we talked about to hear his name called number 1, but I buy his talent to belong here, and I've grown more confident in that the more I've thought about it. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and comment down below your thoughts on Isaiah Collier's game, and also let me know who you want to see next. As always, I'm Keandre, this is HoopIntellect. Until next time, I'm out.